Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for our heroic super guide for taking out Sun Raider Phaerix from League of Explorers in heroic mode with every single class and even a deck of common and basic cards only. Sun Raider Phaerix is a pretty challenging adversary. By far the best class to take him on is Priest because it has a plethora of silence effects. You really want to silence the staff so that it stops flipping back to him, becomes 0 attack. You can silence it when it's on your side or when it's on his side, whatever. But get it to stop having 3/8 attack that'll keep being this nuisance and thorn in your side the whole game. You also often want to silence his 3-mana 5/5s that deal 5 damage to you, because you're gonna take a lot of quick damage. He gets, he has his 3 attack thing from the start. These 3-mana 5/5s that he plays quickly that'll often hit you in the face, still do 5 more damage when you kill it. You often will take a lot of damage, so you often want to silence those as well to just effectively heal you for 5. So you pack your deck with silence. He's pretty challenging in other classes, I would say. Even with Priest, he's certainly not a walkover. You need to draw things in the right order, not get overwhelmed by his early board presence. But the common themes are a lot of silence, some weapon removal too, because he just plays a ton of weapons to keep hitting you in the face once you've taken that early damage. If you can get like Harrison to draw you more cards, or the ooze that gains you armor, you can rebound pretty nicely. Anyway, let's take a look at some specific decks. We'll start off with Druid. For Druid, we go with the Innovate Astral Communion strategy, which works very reliably well. One of the modern tools you have that's quite good for silencing. His 2 big things you want to silence is Defias Cleaner. It's a nice 5/7 body, good solid minion. Silences a minion with Death Rattle specifically. Both of his things that you want to silence do have Death Rattle. So it's an addition into what's otherwise a pretty normal sort of Astral Communion Druid deck. You want to ramp up super quick and then play a bunch of big minions that help you stabilize and get back on top. And, Kun the Forgotten King is a nice one, Deathwing, all of these things. And you can, eventually have your big board presence get you on top of the board with some taunts like Ancient of War, and then eventually just snowball from there. I'm actually a little surprised Yashiraj is not in here. Yashiraj is a pretty obvious one to include. But anyway, that's the standard strategy you can do with Druid, but of course need quite a bit of luck as always to get the early Astral Communion out and draw good follow-up turns. In the case of Hunter, we have the weapon removal we talked about. We actually play normal oozes as well as gluttonous oozes to give you armor gain on something like an Arcanite Reaper, can be pretty impactful. Harrison Jones, you have your silence effects with Defias Cleaners again. You have your ability to help kill some of his small minions, some of his bigger threats with things like Hunter's Mark paired with Unleash the Hounds, Bloodsail Corsair to pull patches to also easily do 1 damage, and again, even more tools to sort of blunt the effect of his weapons. Often you eventually stabilize but have taken a lot of damage and just need to not take a ton more damage from his weapons. Also have Owls for the silence, and also have quite a bit of healing with Refreshment Vendors and Heal Bots looking to bide you over to eventually stabilize. And you have some nice late game threats with High Mains and Call of the Wilds as well. Speaking of healing, for Mage I went with a Reno deck, so it's a one of, except for a couple of exceptions. Well, actually just one exception. The Doomsayers so important to kind of being able to deal with the early pressure he puts on. He often has the 3/8, also plays like a 2-drop. This can help just, reset the board, prevent him from playing something for a turn, and give you an opportunity to then finally start developing your own minions, such as Mad Scientist to pull your secrets, Ironbeak Owl for silence. We have, a lot of the tools we talked about. Gluttonous Oozes, Barrier and Block to bide you time and health. Vaporize, lots of one of secrets to pull from your Mad Scientist. Potion of Polymorph, nice one to get off on his 5/5s to get rid of their death rattles. Polymorph for the same purpose. Because it's a one of deck, obviously Reno, but make sure you've played one of the two Doomsays first. Kazakus can also be great to, do something like deal 4 damage to his old board and heal you for a bunch of armor. And otherwise, good utility things, Meteor to help kill something big and do some incidental AoE damage to his board. Inkmaster Solia for just a tempo play to get out a decent threat and do something like Flame Strike on the same turn. And Tinkmaster Overspark, another essentially a polymorph effect if he does have the 5/5 out, or in the rare case he just has the staff out, you can play this and at least guarantee, even if you replace one of those with a 5/5, you're in better shape because you don't have to deal with the death rattle anymore. And Alexstrasza for some extra heal or to get him down when you're ready to finally finish him off. So that's the Reno deck I used to beat him with Mage. The Paladin deck I used is kind of a weird one, but it's called Thiefadin. Now usually Thief is Rogue, but you're trying to beat him with his staff. So once you do steal his staff when you finally kill it, yes, it's only a 0/5, but the idea is to put a ton of buffs on it, make it really hard to kill, and eventually kill him with it. So you have, Blessing of Kings, Seal of Champions. Eventually you have things like Spikeridge Steed. And eventually you can even Blessed Champion it for like a ton of damage. Other than that, you have a lot of sort of board maintenance tools. You have your silencers again with Owl, Defias Cleaner. You'll notice there are quite a few one-ofs in this deck, but it's far from a Reno deck. There's lots of duplicates. Sylvanas to help you steal something important. Eadric the Pure to neutralize his board. Dino Size, another one to get on his staff that you're trying to keep alive and on your side. Ragnaros Lightlord and Forbidden Healing for some big healing. Tyrion, which you can bring back with Nazath. Wickerflame Burn Bristles for some early game board presence and healing. Eldors to deal with his board. No Aldermans, but you're mostly looking to just neutralize his threats and eventually get the right combination where you can buff up that staff a lot and turn it back on him and kill him. Silence the Rod. Here is the... Oh, whoops. I think I've kept calling it a staff when actually it's a rod. But anyway, Silence the Rod is the Priest deck I used at the time of the adventure to defeat Sunraider Phaerix in Heroic, and Priest has a lot of heal. You have your Silences, you have your Cabal, where are they? Oh, I don't actually have them in this deck. Maybe it came later, the Cabal Songsteel. I know I have that in the common only, which I'll get to later. But yeah, you have your Spell Breakers and your Owls. Other than that, we have a bunch of healing to help us stay alive, but it's mostly a dragon deck. You're just looking to stay... we also put in Master Spells for the Silence. But other than that, it's pretty much a dragon deck. You're looking to stay alive through tempo. Definitely could craft a better deck targeting him now, because we have more tools like Cabal Songstealers, Defias Cleaners, and some other powerful priest tools that can heal you up a lot, like Awaken the Makers. So anyway, this is essentially a modified Dragon Priest deck with a lot of added silence effects. You definitely want to have your deaths to be able to deal with his 3-mana 5/5s, and also his, what's it called? His Fire God Destroyers that, I don't know about you guys, against me they almost always come out with high attack. Like they hit 7 way more often than they should, statistically speaking. But anyway, this is the Priest deck I used to take him out. At the time. Let's move on to Rogue. In the case of Rogue, I built a deck where you go all in pretty much on building up a huge questing adventure. And as you can see in the screenshot, definitely can be done. So you're putting in a lot of super cheap spells, preparations, shadow steps, also Van Cleef for that purpose. You can get a big Van Cleef on the same turn. You're building up your questing adventurers. Conceal so that he can't, if you're in the middle of building up a questing adventure, he can't kill it with what's already on board, so you have more turns to just keep going. And things really take off when you can get a Gadgets on Auctioneer out and, you know, do your things. Backstab, coin, prep, Shadow Strike, prep, Eviscerate, you know, coin, Swashbuckler, something cheap. Eventually just get tons of stuff out and build up a huge questing adventure which can smack him in the face for tons of damage. The other one I did put in, which I found utility in, was Pit Snake. Simple little thing. If it doesn't get sniped by Flame Juggler, it's very effective for very quickly having a tool to stop you from taking damage from his 3/8s and whatnot to reduce some of that early damage. And Patient Assassins are in there for the same reason. A little stealth poisonous guy that can help essentially give you cheap removal. He doesn't have 1 damage AoE, so in terms of a stealth 1 health thing, pretty much only Flame Juggler can snipe that. Shaman, as I've often found is the case with these heroic bosses, I end up doing a hodgepodge of a bunch of ideas and it just kind of works. So we're going heavy on Jades. You'll see Jade Chieftains, Eye of Black Paws, Jade Spirits, Jade Claws, the usual suspects. We also go heavy on heal. We have heal bots and healing waves, which if you win the joust, heals you for a ton. Because again, as I've said before, you're going to just take a lot of damage. Then we have a bunch of board clears like double Volcano to be able to reset his board, Lightning Storms, and even an Elemental Destruction. We have Bronzebeard to couple with some of the Jade generators like Aya Blackpaw, Jade Chieftains, Jade Spirits. We have Devolve is an effective board-wide silence. You can in 1 turn essentially get rid of his 3-mana 5/5 that'll when it dies do 5 more damage. His 3/8 that's going to keep coming back. You can just neutralize both of those to not even exist and be less threatening. We have the Earth Shocks for silence as well. Hexes to essentially silence as well. Glacial Shard is in there just to stall some of the damage and act as a potential trigger for Calamos Primal Lord to do a nice 3-mana clear or a big health or a big heal. And with that, you should eventually be able to take control of the board and finish him off in turn. The Warlock deck I used had a bit of a demon theme in addition to the themes I've mentioned before that keep coming up of weapon removal between your Gluttonous Oozes and Harrison Jones, and silence with your Spellbreakers. Early board clears like Doomsayers, Corrupting Mists, even additional corruptions for just tons of removal. And then you have your big demons, Abyssal Enforcers, Jaraxxus, Mal'Ganis to protect you, Jaraxxus to essentially heal up if you've gotten super low, Doom Guards to take control of the board, Shadow Flame to help you clear his board, and Void Callers to cheat out some of these big powerful demons. Since the most recent expansion, you'd probably throw in the Death Knight as well. What's it called? Something Gul'dan, Bloodreaver Gul'dan, blanking on the name. But yeah, this is a bit of a demon silence weapon removal deck that's a bit more on the control side to help you survive and eventually take control of the board. The warrior deck I used is super defensive, looking to gain tons of armor and just clear his threats, gain armor, get to the point where you survive, and eventually run him out of resources. You don't have a huge number of threats. King Marsh is about it in terms of like scary minions that can kill him over time. You're really just looking for the value game. I'm a little surprised I don't have a Justicar in here with that theme. But what you do have is a lot of removal, like shield slams, pairing with your shield blocks, with your shield maidens, Gorehowl to kill a ton of his minions while you're armoring up, Double Brawl to be able to deal with him going wide, silence of course in terms of your Spellbreakers, weapon removal again, Harrison Jones and Ooze, Bashes for more armor, Sleep with the Fishes to combo with things that do a bit of damage to him like the Death Spike, Death Rattle, and King Marsh to help clear his board. And and Doomsay is again for that early tempo play where you get rid of both his threats out and prevent him from playing for another turn. This is your super defensive, stay alive deck for a long time and just run him out of resources. Last but not least, I had to do my usual challenge of defeating him with basic and common cards only. I used Priest, as I said. Priest is probably the strongest, and this was in more recent times. So then when, the other Priest deck I showed was at the time. So we don't have beyond basic and common cards, but we do have some new commons like Cabal Songstealer is quite nice in there. Essentially replaces Defias Cleaner. Shadowword Pain's good for getting rid of his rod, at least temporarily. If you can silence it on your side of the board, that's better than silencing it on his side of the board. Northshire Cleric to draw, Mind Vision to steal some of his powerful cards. Like if you can get a 3-mana 5/5, that helps quite a bit. And he does in general have like pretty good cards. Cultist and Cabal Talon Priest, I almost always put in here as just like helpful mid-game, early to mid-game things that help buff each other and sort of give you more value out of having some board presence. Death, obviously, for his 3-mana 5/5s, and his Fireguard Destroyers that go. Shredder for good value. Nova for some board cleared when he eventually goes wide. And looking for some finishes eventually when you've stabilized and just need to kill him back, well, that's what the Ultra Swords are for. Common cards, but pretty hefty. He doesn't have direct removal, so these will survive a bunch of combat, and hopefully if you can get 2 of these out once you've stabilized, you'll be able to turn around and punch your way to victory. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how I took out Sunraider Phaerix in heroic mode with every single class, and even a deck of basic and common cards if you're looking for a super budget deck. Good luck out there. See you next time.